Hello, good evening, everyone, and warm welcome to Business Live. Coming up in our headlines, government is optimistic, reaching a staff-level IMF deal with aid in the fast recovery of the economy.
The economy is responding positively to the news of Government of Ghana and the IMF reaching an SLA, and we are eager to leverage this momentum.
Traders expressed mixed reactions to Guterres' directive to reduce prices on the market as local currency falls below 12 cedis to $1. We will be speaking to the association's president. The Institute of Energy Security projects a fall in the prices of petroleum products beginning this Friday, December 16, 2022. We'll hear from the head of the institute. We have details of these and many others lined up for you. Please stay. Always a pleasure to stay on. I am Pious Kojo Backah. A look now at our stories. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is optimistic that securing an IMF staff deal with the fund will fast-track the recovery of the economy. The minister disclosed this at a news conference today by the IMF to give more details on the staff-level agreement reached. George Biafe has the rest of the story.
At a news conference in Accra, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta noted that he expects other sectors to greatly benefit from this development to aid in the quick turnaround of the economy.
Already the economy is responding positively to the news of Government of Ghana and the IMF reaching an SLA, and we are eager to leverage this momentum at the very moment when the IMF Executive Board approves the program requests. We're already seeing significant improvement in the exchange rate, with the Ghana cedi recovering against major currencies. We are confident as a resilient people that we shall rally to support this great enterprise to restore macroeconomic stability and promote robust and inclusive growth.
The minister also spoke about government's commitment to reach agreement with all the local bondholders so they can close the page when it comes to this debt exchange program.
And therefore, also continuing with that, with the externals, we hope that, we've been having discussions, but maybe formalized discussions going through beginning, this week also. So that's the trajectory that we are looking at.
Ken Ofori-Atta also assured that the government is fully committed to fiscal discipline, whilst ensuring that the social protection programs are maintained under the fund program.
If you listen to Stefan, there was a clarity of the issue of preservation and enhancing actually social interventions, and pre-education falls within that. I think we are doing a review to look at efficiencies of all of these programs, and that has already kicked off. And as we then continue, we'll make sure that these are run efficiently.
Leader of the IMF mission to Ghana, Stefan Rode, maintained that the issue about how Ghana goes about with its debt exchange program should be independently done by government and not the IMF.
When it comes to, for example, the perimeter of the debt restructuring, which debt would be included or not included, when it comes to the parameters of the debt restructuring, in other words, what type of relief would be sought from one type of creditors or another, and when it comes to engagement between the government and the creditors, all of that are very much sovereign decisions, and they are very much for the government to decide on in collaboration with their financial and legal advisors.
He also announced that Ghana should immediately get disbursement from the IMF once the staff-level agreement is approved by management and the board of the fund.
As soon as we have assurances from creditors that this will be the case, when sufficient progress has been made on that front, we will be able to present the program to our board. And as to the follow-up question that you had on when the money would hit Ghana's accounts, that would happen very, very shortly after the program has been approved by the board.
On Ghana's frequent visits to the IMF, the leader noted that this is one of the reasons why this program is trying to deal with the structural issues facing the economy.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Finance Abna Sassari has been given more details about this deal and how government intends to finalize the discussion on the debt exchange program.
With a staff-level agreement, once you reach it, it's likely, highly likely that it will go to the board and the board will approve this. At the staff-level agreement level, what happens is that all the measures that you, the country, believe that you have to take or you have to go through or implement to make sure you stabilize your economy and get on track and achieve the objectives for which you went to the IMF. That is what is contained in the staff level agreement. But one thing that I believe will turn things is the post-COVID economic program that both of us have committed to work at it and make sure we implement it to the letter to make sure that at the end of the day we come out of the situation in which we find ourselves. And for me, the work is not over. We have done a very important aspect of the work, but there are other commitments that we need to fulfill before it can go to the board. One is to make sure that we pass all the revenue measures in the budget. The other is to make sure that all the expenditure rationalization measures in the budget we are able to implement them. And aside that, we are also able to reach an agreement on the debt operations. That will also go a long way to help us to close completely the deal that we have with the IMF.
You talked about the closing the book on the debt operations, and you had the leader of the nation talking about the fact that if we're able to deal this thing from now to first quarter of next year, then an executive board approval is assured. Does it put more pressure on you to go back, negotiate, and get this thing done? Because that's the sticking point.
It is more about engaging the people and telling them why we believe at this point in time in the history of the nation, we need to go in for a debt operations. We have started engaging. Yesterday, we met the pension funds, and consistently we will engage all the stakeholders. And I believe that it is in the interest of the state that we do this now. A question was asked in the at the press conference, and someone asked about the level of our debt and what we can do. And I'm also saying that if you look at the revenues that you want to raise in a particular year, and you are using more than 50% of that revenue to service just your debt, clearly it tells you that you need to do something about it. And that is why we believe that together, let's have this debt operations done and concluded. That will go a long way to reduce hugely the interest payments that we have in the budget.
All right, so let's stay a while longer on this development. And joining me on the back of this is President of the Association of Ghana Industries, Humphrey Enyim-Dake. Grateful, Humphrey, you could join us on Business Live. I'm pretty sure you've been monitoring developments in relation to this negotiation. I just want to pick your thoughts on that initially. What do you make of that? Hello, Humphrey, if you can unmute for me, I'll be glad.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, much better now.
Okay, so per the announcement that came up this morning to the mid-afternoon, that is a progressive position on the negotiation stage. So that is welcoming. It triggers an element of confidence in the economic system, and players in the space, specifically industry and entrepreneurs, will see that will gradually restore confidence in the economy. So it's still early days yet. to see this crystallize into and translate into meaningful business cost centers. So it's a positive information, and it is a trigger for the confidence of the economy. So, but it's still early days yet. Let's see how it plays out gradually.
Early days yet, you see. Going forward, we do know that by next year, the money should hit the account of the Bank of Ghana. Now, how are your members positioning themselves for next year following the program?
So with that development, with the development as indicated, I presume that is why the minister and his team frankly made the effort to close this stage of the transaction so that it restores some element of confidence into the economy before the Christmas and the holiday seasons. So it's a positive approach, and therefore that will also advise the business community in terms of their imports and also their various orders for the first quarter. Negotiations on various fronts will be very helpful. So therefore, I presume it's in the right direction. It's early this year, given that everybody wants to see the full closure from Washington, and then the effect on the bank accounts of the states, and to bring reasonable stability. Bear in mind, the $3 billion is not a panacea. It's a stability funding, and that will also be disbursed per various terms and conditions that government might need to meet as this goes on. It rather also gives confidence to other investors in the economy of Ghana to revisit their books, especially with bulk goods. A number of our players in the space had concerns with their credit lines from their suppliers because everybody wanted to be sure about the closure of this deal. So once this goes on, it's early days yet. Every supplier and every customer will want to engage its supplier and restore confidence into the economy, and therefore credit lines will be restored, and imports at the port will increase, and government can get its estimated target revenue for the year. So it's still early days here. Let's see how it plays out into the first quarter of next year.
All right, grateful. Humphrey Enyimdake is the president of the Association of Ghana Industries, sharing his perspective with us on this latest development there. Now, research lead and economist with GCB Capital, Courage Buti, says, although a staff-level agreement has been reached, there may not be an approval in place yet. According to him, more needs to be done to ensure the completion of the program, hopefully in 3 weeks.
The first necessary step is the staff-level agreement, which is now in the bag, but we still have it all to do. Of course, the external debt restructuring will happen, but it's not a precondition for a board approval, actually. I think what is the domestic one. You need to show progress about your intentions to restructure your debt. Now, the announcement has been made, a significant one. We've seen the market's reception of that announcement, and understand, as the Deputy Minister put it across, engagements are ongoing. Possibly, there could be some compromises here and there, either from us investors or from the government in terms of varying the terms. But the question again is, even if you have agreed to vary the terms of such debt restructuring, how will it impact the overall plan of achieving 55% debt to GDP ratio by 2028? And what implication will it have for the interest cost on the domestic market and all those other considerations, really? And so it's still up there to do. Why we decided to announce the debt exchange program before we started engaging the market for probably their take on it is quite baffling, given the kind of speed we needed to achieve a program, really. But I dare say that this whole process, depending on how long it will take and how yielding the domestic market could be or otherwise, we might not have an approval in place maybe in the next 2-3 weeks or so. It will drag a bit. And it will depend on what concessions the government has to make at this point in time. And of course, how willing we are as a populace also to cooperate with the government. So we still have it all to do at this point in time.
Well, on his part, Associate Professor of Finance at Andrews University in the USA, Professor Williams Ripra, highlighted some key issues government needs to factor in the program going forward.
We should demonstrate that by 2027, our debt to GDP will get to 55%. Now it has been settled that anytime our debt to GDP moves to about 55%, we are moving into debt distress. Anytime our repayment of external debt exceeds 18% of our total revenues in the country, it means that we are also in debt distress. And all these factors affect our balance of payments. So that is why it is very, very important, and the government may have to focus on what to cut. If you listen to the program very well, it gives room for social interventions. I'm expecting that government may have to look at its capital expenditure. And then also we haven't talked about the size of government. That demonstration must be well be in place for government to demonstrate that yes, the size of government purse is being reduced. And then also looking at the statement very carefully, you will see that it talks about monitoring and control mechanisms that government put in place, and then reporting practices. Government may have to be transparent. So if there is a paragraph in that statement that talks it nicely. A key element that the fund also mentioned that we now have to pay attention to energy levy debt and cocoa debt. These are the big points that we have to pay attention to. Is the energy debt going up? Can government now start restructuring to find ways to export some of the excess energy we have, capacity we have, to bring in more revenue? Because the issues are becoming a little bit complicated, but the term sheet, or I call it term sheet, the staff agreement has laid out what government needs to do. And if you follow it, probably we'll be able to achieve our aim.
Moving on to some other stories, some traders in Accra say even though the cedi is stabilizing against the dollar, a directive from the Ghana Union of Traders Association that traders should reduce prices may not be feasible. Now, some of the traders say the decision must be left for market forces to drive the prices down. Let's get on to Zoom and speak to the president of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng. Grateful, Doc, you could join us on Business Live. Some have said that this directive will not work. And what is your response to that?
Yeah, I agree with them because we are not in a price control regime. We are in a liberalized market. Ours is to appeal to the conscience of the trading community in that we have come to increase our prices when the forest was up. And so when it comes down, then by principle, we have to also adjust our prices. And let me tell you, even the market has started responding, even from last week, before I came to make the statement. The challenge here is that most of our people have bought the forest for higher price, including myself, who is talking, over 15 Ghana cedis. And so the person's goods is still not yet even arrived. And so some of the people might have the cause to say some of the things. But the advice that we are giving to them is also they have to strike out reasonable averages so that they are not edged out of competition. Because in the market forces, as they are saying, people are going to get the dollar at a cheaper price, and they are not going to wait for those who did not get it cheaper. They are going to sell at a reduced prices, and if care is not taken, you will not be competitive, and if your capital is a borrowed one, you are going to find yourself in further problems. So ours was an advice, but it's not something that's being imposed on anybody. So we appeal to the conscience of our people, and most people understand. And those people who are challenged not to reduce their price have their right to do what they have to do. Yeah.
Grateful. Now, I do know that you have constantly rejected the claims that your members are taking advantage of the situation. Do you think this situation makes it difficult for you to reject that?
No, the market is such that you cannot take any undue advantage. The competition in the market is so much that you cannot overprice yourself and still be remain relevant. But and then I've told you when prices go up, it's a natural sequence to the factors of costing, like duties, the foreign exchange and all that. These are the factors that determine pricing, and these are the general factors. When it comes to pricing itself, I must say that we are in a consumer's market. So it's the consumer who actually determines the price by fishing out for the cheaper prices and rewarding the people who sell cheaper and punish those who sell higher. It's as simple as that. So the market forces itself will determine the prices as people have rightly said. But what we are seeking to do is to show good faith to the consuming public that our intentions are clear. That when the exchange rate comes down, we will respond positively to alleviate the plight of the consuming public, especially when we are going for Christmas. I'll be very glad when there are also the benefits, the gains that we are getting now is transferred to the consuming public for them to enjoy the Christmas festivities. It's as simple as that. So this is not something that is being imposed. It's something that is a call. The same way that we call or encourage our members to adjust their prices upwards so that they do not lose their capitals. It was just an appeal. So this is what we are doing.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph, for your input this evening. We shall be monitoring that and keep listeners or watchers, viewers updated subsequently. Let's move on to one of our headline stories. And prices of petroleum products are expected to fall significantly beginning this Friday, December 16, 2022. Now, the Institute of Energy Security is projecting that. According to the Institute, the expected price drops would be significant due to the 6.0% appreciation of the cedi against the US dollar during the period. Now, it said the new prices will fall to about 13 and 16 cedis per litre for petrol and diesel, whilst liquefied petroleum gas will go for about 12 cedis per kilogram. Now, even before that, some oil marketing companies have begun reducing prices of petroleum products. Joining us on phone is the Executive Director of the Institute of Energy Security, Nana Mwesi the 7th. Grateful you could join us, Nana, for Business Live. Certainly good news, I guess. And how significant is the drop in fuel prices?
Thanks for having me, Pious. The expected fall in the price of domestic fuel prices will be quite significant in the sense that we've all been watching fuel prices rise over the last 1 year by more than 100%. If this expected price kicks in, then we are likely to be buying a little petrol and diesel at the rate that we're buying somewhere in September 2022.
So based on the present trend where the cedi is strengthening in value against the dollar, will we see a further drop in prices of petroleum products at the end of the month, would you say?
Pious, the forex element cannot be the only factor that we can look at in drawing the conclusion on where prices of fuel will be. But then we must be watching the international domain. For the last 2 weeks, thankfully, we saw the price of crude oil fall by more than 8%. And that had a great impact on the price of finished product or refined product. In the same vein, we saw the price of petrol drop by more than 8.9% on the world market. Diesel price dropped by 8%, LPG by 7.4%. And so, in addition to the forex element, that is why we could say that consumers can expect a sizable drop in fuel prices come the next 2 weeks, beginning from tomorrow going.
Anytime there is a drop in fuel prices, the consumer looks forward to seeing transport fares, kind of reduced or looked at again. I know this doesn't fall under your jurisdiction, but do you think it's about time we have to take a look at that sector as well?
Exactly so, because over the last 3 months, we have seen that driving habits of Ghanaians have changed because of the high fuel prices, and many are forced to join public transport. And so if we are now seeing prices at the pump coming down, consumers and passengers like me will also expect that transport operators will also factor in this and reduce prices, because they tell us oftentimes that fuel is a bigger component in their cost computation. And so if prices are going down, of course, we can only appeal to transport operators to also bring down prices to certain levels, so that the inflation we've seen due to rising fuel price and transport costs, the inflation could also come down to cushion Ghanaians, particularly in this Yuletide.
We are grateful. Nana Mwesi the 7th is the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security, IES, speaking to us on that latest trend in relation to the prices of fuel expected to go down. And that's it for Business Live for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Always a pleasure serving you. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. We've got some international business news for you.